At the beginning of the movie, we see a father and son driving home through the forest late at night. Suddenly, on the side of the road, they see a woman in a blood-stained nightgown, holding a knife. The father decides not to stop and call the police later. It's clear that he's frightened by the sight. A few hundred meters later, they see a girl running deep into the forest. The man has to get out and handle it, leaving his son in the car. The anxious and scared boy watches through the window with worry. A few minutes later, the girl knocks on the car and begs him to open the door. The boy lets her in, despite his father's orders. Immediately, the terrible woman starts banging on the car. She's already smashing the glass, but the boy's father manages to stop her by hitting her in the head. The police and paramedics arrive. The criminal is arrested. The girl, answering questions, says her name is Christina. Many years go by. Now, grown-up Christina is an elementary school teacher. She wants to adopt a girl from an orphanage, but they warn her that the girl is very troublesome and disobedient. However, Christina is confident that she can help the teenager find her way in life. Sheriff Jimmy arrives at another call. The door isn't opening, so he has to go in himself. At this moment, the phone rings, and it's the former police chief, Jerry, telling him about Elizabeth Caulfield, who once kidnapped 5 girls and killed 4 of them. Only one managed to escape. Elizabeth was sentenced, but this morning she managed to escape from custody, and now she's looking for her last victim. The chief orders Jimmy to stop the escaped psychopath before she reaches her goal. Meanwhile, Christina is celebrating her birthday. There are quite a few people at the party, but unfortunately, her boyfriend didn't show up. She finds Lisa, whom she wants to adopt, in the bathroom. She's living with her now to go through the home study for adoption. Lisa gives Christina a small box, asking her to open it later. Christina wants to announce the addition to her family, but the sheriff, Jimmy, knocks on the door. He tells her about the escaped psychopath. Christina is in shock. She returns Lisa to the foster family, wanting to protect her from her past. Christina herself will now be under the watch of Sheriff Jimmy. The man tries to calm her, but Christina is sure. She is the only target for Elizabeth. Sheriff Jimmy learns the history of Elizabeth Caulfield's crimes. Every year, the woman kidnapped one girl, always 1 year older than the previous victim. Christina was the first one Elizabeth kidnapped, and the only one who managed to escape. Christina, under great stress, comes across the gift Lisa gave her, a necklace with the inscription, "Happy Birthday, Mom." Jimmy decides to visit Jerry, who has been retired for health reasons, and ask him a few questions. There, he meets his ex-girlfriend, Emmy. She's pregnant now, and her new boyfriend left her. Jimmy tells her about Christina's condition. Jerry shares his concerns because, when all these murders happened, he was in charge of the police. So now he can't let the whole town be thrown into chaos again, because it'll be his fault. The sheriff decides to dig deeper into the whole story, goes through Elizabeth's evidence, and finds an old videotape. Jimmy visits a colleague, and they watch the video, where a little Christina is quoting the Bible. Jimmy asks to stabilize the footage to better read the inscription in the top corner. He feels like there's something strange on the recording. Meanwhile, Christina watches the news, hoping Elizabeth will be caught soon. Suddenly, her friend knocks on the door, reminding her that she promised to watch her daughter, Tracy. The girl suggests they play hide and seek, and Mia reluctantly agrees. Suddenly, Christina gets a call from her ex-boyfriend's mother, worried about him because he hasn't been answering his calls. Christina continues looking for the girl and even stops the game, but Tracy doesn't respond. She starts to panic, runs outside, and meets Jimmy, with the little rascal hiding behind him. Christina offers Jimmy to come in. The sheriff shares a bit about his ex-girlfriend, Emmy. They broke up because her parents didn't approve of their relationship. Christina shares her story. After what happened, she lived in foster homes and wasn't happy. That's why she decided to adopt Lisa. The girl has the same fate. Jimmy begins to suspect Jerry isn't telling the whole truth about Elizabeth Caulfield's case. He starts checking the house for unlocked locks and suddenly comes across Christina, who seems to be sleepwalking. Christina is indeed dreaming, and she sees herself and her unfortunate friend walking through the forest with Elizabeth Caulfield. When she comes to, she gets ready and heads to work, but before she does, she visits her ex-boyfriend. She calls his mother and at the same time looks into the bedroom, where she is shocked by what she sees. On the bed lies a mutilated young man, lifeless, and next to him on the floor, a girl in the same condition. Christina runs outside in horror, and soon the police arrive. She is sure that all of this is Elizabeth Caulfield's doing. Back at school, Christina asks her colleagues and students about Lisa, who skipped class. One of the girls admits she's at the church. Christina immediately heads there and finds her with some guy. Christina, furious, threatens the guy and forces the girl to leave with her. They start arguing, and in the end, Lisa runs away. Meanwhile, Jimmy continues investigating the Caulfield case and learns about the hospital where she worked as a nurse in the maternity ward. It turns out she was fired shortly before the murders began because of a romance with the former police chief. And that lover of the psychopath was Jerry. Christina, searching for Lisa, arrives at the home of her foster family. Suddenly, it turns out that Christina herself also lived there until she came of age. Her foster father, Terry Caldwell, often beat her and treated her roughly, and Christina wants to save Lisa from the same fate. Jimmy begins to suspect Jerry even more, as it seems like he is involved in the Caulfield case. Lisa returns home, where the foster father tells her the truth about Christina and her past. That night, Caulfield breaks into the Caldwell house. First, she kills the mother, then the father, and finally reaches Lisa, who has the sense to run into the woods. Lisa's fate remains off-screen for now. Meanwhile, Jimmy continues to guard Christina. That night, he finds her in the woods, digging into the ground. She's sleepwalking again. She wakes up in the house, lying on the floor. Her legs are covered in dirt, and she's screaming in a voice that isn't hers. Jimmy tells her about the Caldwell family's murder and asks for her help in figuring it out, as all these murders are somehow related to her. Enraged and upset, Christina refuses to help and leaves to search for Lisa. Her first stop is the church, where she finds the lifeless body of the girl's boyfriend and, next to him, Elizabeth Caulfield herself. At that moment, an old scene appears in her mind, where she and another girl escape from Caulfield's house. The companion hesitates to run away, and Christina flees into the forest alone. Jimmy's partner finally manages to improve the video quality, and she discovers something truly strange. In the reflection of a mirror in the video, another girl is visible. Christina calls the police to the church, and both Jimmy and his partner arrive, grilling Elizabeth about how she could know about Christina's life. Christina admits that she had been writing letters to Elizabeth in prison since she was 15, feeling lonely. She felt the need to write to her because, although Elizabeth was a serial killer, she remained the only person who was close to her. Jimmy informs Christina that they found Lisa's body, but she didn't die at the hands of the psychopath. The girl just didn't notice a ravine in the dark and broke her neck. Christina runs home and starts destroying everything around her. Suddenly, the child services agent stops by and Christina lets him in. Meanwhile, Jimmy arrives at his partner's place to check the video footage. It turns out that there was another girl in the house where the video was taken. The child services agent accuses Christina of lying. She didn't mention the attack on a neighbor when she was a teenager. Christina responds by saying she did all of that while unconscious. The tension rises, and then Christina adds that this is not even her real name, and kills him with an axe. Once again, there's a flashback of Christina's horrific childhood. She sees Elizabeth burying another girl. Just like that, grown-up Christina is now digging a grave for the child services agent. Jimmy returns to Christina and demands that she finally tell him the truth. Something doesn't add up in this story. Christina admits that there were not 5 girls in that house, but 6. The 6th was Katie Caulfield, Elizabeth Caulfield's biological daughter. Jimmy informs her that Elizabeth, as it turns out, has been dead for 2 days. Her mutilated body was found in the woods. Could Christina be the killer? However, The footage from the former police chief's house shows a doorbell ringing, but Jerry's wife doesn't even get to open it before she's shot. Suspecting something's wrong, Jerry comes out of the basement and is also killed. Only their pregnant daughter, Emmy, is left in the house. Elizabeth Caulfield comes to light, alive and well. Emmy calls for help. Suddenly, Elizabeth stops, caught up in her own memories. She used to visit this house as a guest. She returns to reality when Jerry's injured wife regains consciousness. Elizabeth, without ceremony, drives a knife into her chest. Jimmy arrives at the scene. He leaves Christina handcuffed in the car and enters the house. In the bathroom, he finds injured Emmy. Elizabeth has cut the baby out of her womb. Christina, sitting in the car, realizes that it's time to deal with Elizabeth once and for all. She enters the house, grabs a knife, but suddenly hears a baby crying on the dining table. Christina faces Elizabeth. She says she took this child for her, instead of that worthless girl, Lisa. The psychopath demands gratitude and slashes Christina's face with the knife, saying they're exactly the same. They look very alike. Christina indeed thanks the killer, hugging her, and plunges the knife into her chest. Christina then takes the newborn and walks outside, where guns are pointed at her. Suddenly, Elizabeth reappears behind her, but she's shot by Jimmy. The end of the movie finally explains everything. In the ambulance, Christina is asked for her name. She smiles and answers, Katie, the biological daughter of the psychopath Elizabeth Caulfield and the traitor Jerry, who abandoned his pregnant lover. All of Caulfield's crimes were committed for her daughter. And at that moment, the film ends. Thank you all for watching this video until the very end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this film. And see you in the next videos.